It's a team that, like Manic said in the pre-show, only 1 year ago formed and then qualified for the OCN. They took their steps towards the Tier 1 of OCE. Now they're looking to do the same for the wider APAC region. And throughout 2021, these two teams within OCN had a fierce rivalry, constantly juggling, fighting for those playoffs positions, and Wildcard consistently failed to achieve that, where ROFLCOPTER managed to do so. Now we find ourselves on Coastline. It is Wildcard's map pick. Let's see if they've had some good practice that they can put into their game performance.
And look, you would have to think so on that whole practice statement, because I guess to add to the whole map veto discussion that the desk was hotly discussing, it's come in a very strange situation. The maps that eventuated were not to be expected. You know, Coastline and Villa are not played a whole lot by either of these teams. In fact, Coastline is the equal second most banned map by Wildcard. So generally, they're just not big fans of playing it. And I'm really curious to see what they've been able to prepare in the coming months for this match.
And that's it. It has been a hot minute since Wildcard last played a game. It was all the way back in November. Guess what? That was the OCN relegations. Not only did Wildcard face themselves fighting for their spot in APAC South, but even within their own national league, they struggled. But we came into that OCN doubting them, thinking that this was the end of Wildcard, that maybe even they would fail to qualify for 2022, and then unfortunately potentially disband. They surprised us by coming out heads and shoulders above the rest. First place in the OCN relegation. Wildcard looked a lot better. Now they're going to have to show that they can do the same at this APAC level. Of course, it's an entirely different ball game. Now they're facing a much higher caliber of opponent here in ROFLCOPTER.
They definitely are. This is, you know, it's not going to be similar level of competition as that. So hopefully they are on their A game today. And of course, that has always been, or has been, a big issue for them throughout 2021. And something that got them here is they aren't always on their A game. They've certainly had a lot of inconsistencies and not a lot of, I guess I would call it roster stability, but in that they've just never really gelled to a cohesive position ever since they lost Diesel way back at the start of stage 1 of last year.
Well, let's see if they can put into action everything that they have been grinding hard for. Imagine all year long playing in the Nationals, practicing with no organization behind them. ROFLCOPTER have been fighting for this opportunity, just one chance to get it into APAC South. It would mean everything. It would likely mean organizations approaching them, salaried offers, making this professional esports dream more than just a dream. It's actually something that they can call their living. And, well, they really only have one more chance. They've made it through the bracket, passing 2 teams already, but this is no doubt their largest challenge yet. And they are the ones starting on defense. It is, in fact, Wildcard who have to make the first move as they begin to take some control of the map here on Coast.
You know, that is something that won't be kind of in ROFLCOPTER's favor. Coastline traditionally for quite a while, and especially in the current meta, does tend to favor the stronger attacking teams. So good little test here for this first half of Coastline. Seeing a contest from OJ in the hallway now. He's been pretty hot this weekend, had some really good performances for ROFLCOPTER during this point. So he's certainly going to be feeling some confidence. Boydie to also back him up, but it is Geo from Wildcard. He's going to find that opening pick, and Pat's on side here, Dev. The plant going down.
Okay, this has taken us by surprise, as it has taken ROFLCOPTER by surprise. 2-man advantage now for WC before OJ finally finds the first pick for his side. Now it's a retake scenario, but ROFLCOPTER are dropping light fires. Not going down without a fight, though. Boydie finds a quick double, makes it a 2-on-2. Can't find the third, though. Emo steps up, traded back. Wettables versus Vinny. And that diffuser may well be stuck. Wettables got to win the fight, but Vinny! He clutches the 1v1. Wildcard start with a strong first round here on Coast, albeit one that keeps our heart racing.
Yeah, it really came down to the wire. I thought that ROFLCOPTER on the retake might have had that one, but great call from Wildcard. They had such a good read on the site players. In fact, the lack of site players, should say, from ROFLCOPTER. They saw that there was just a lot of aggression, particularly on that top floor. and they found themselves that little opening. I didn't quite see exactly how they got there, but you'd have to think that they must have just crept through lobby to that private bathroom, and that was it. Set themselves up for a nice plant, and Wildcard have taken this first attack round.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as
Now on Coastline, we would typically expect the map to be attacker favored. While the meta is generally tending in that direction, and ever evolving, I might say, so it's hard to make sweeping statements, but in the context of the 7 maps we've got in the pool, Coastline definitely up there with Chalet as one of the more attacker-sided, so we're looking at Wildcard right now. They should be coming away 3-3-4-2 in the half. ROFLCOPTER, funnily enough, actually chose to start defense, as it is Wildcard's map pick. ROFL got the choice, and they seem to have some strong setups, particularly utilizing these shields. You got one on OJ, actually running the FO12. This got nerfed recently. Interesting. He's still running it, not going for the Scorpion. We also have a shield on Kaken as well, so a very extended setup with a lot of utility Wildcard's going to have to clear.
Yeah, I do really like this setup. I mean, it's evolved a lot from previous attempts over the years, pretty much, seeing as Coastline's been in for quite a while. I mean, it has had the rework, but regardless, you know, it really was heavy favored, or heavy focused, I should say, on the hookah and billiards hard hold, but now it's really all about the spread out. I really like that Wedables is also going to be playing down in office here, you know, contest that early entry around Aquarium even, you know, no safe entry here to put pressure on the site. They're going to have to try and deal with Wedables. And overall, I'm just really liking from ROFLCOPTER that they are putting, you know, some really great setups down, really thinking about spreading out and putting some pressure early on Wildcard.
Wildcard have now entered the map. On the front line, 2 players entering, however, Kaken gets the better of Geo this time round. Kaken has such a strong position. The rookie player for ROFLCOPTER, holding down a long line of sight, and the MX4 is not good enough. Pat takes him down.
Look at the little pinch there from Wildcard, aided by that pressure from Emorin at the window of top of theater stairs. So now they do have some really decent control here on this top floor on the east side. It's going to be opening some line of sights so they can pressure towards players remaining on site. But besides that, ROFLCOPTER not hard reacting to their fallen teammate. They're just holding their positions tightly and letting this clock wind down a little bit for Wildcard.
Still a lot of time left. Coastline is a small map, but a lot of choke points that can be difficult to really force yourself through them, especially when there's X Factors roaming down below Hotshot. We saw how potent flanks can be in the match just prior. Order were not watching their flanks in Last Dance. Well, they certainly took advantage, but it looks like Emo is keen on it. He is the flank watch player for Wildcard. And if Hotshot moves too early, he will likely fall.
Comes the connection, and it is Emorin sharp on the shots there. Hotshot not having as much of an impact. It did burn a little bit of time and attention, but with 30 seconds to go, Wildcard, they look pretty well set up here for this Billiards execute, and just like that, Dev, 4v1, Wedables all on his shoulders again.
A class act from Wildcard. 4v1 now. Wedables is a good player, but not certainly good enough to fight off 4 incredibly strong players. Wildcard do take their second round victory here on Coastline, building up that confidence and gradually gathering some momentum.
It has been a good couple of rounds. I mean, we have obviously only seen 2 rounds of Siege so far, but this has been pretty sharp from Wildcard. I'm really liking their decision making, and they're playing very well as a team. You know, they were able to trade out that opening death from the get-go, and that was it. They didn't lose a player after that point. They're really holding together well. Emorin doing a great job on that flank watch, didn't lose his gunfight at that as well. So good signs early, but obviously there's still a lot to play in map 1.
attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
So, Kitchen again. ROFLCOPTER really feeling like they could have done something different. I tend to agree. We saw Wildcard go for that quick plant, and you know, ROFLCOPTER just had no info on that. So I feel like if they're a little more aware around sight, you know, maybe they could try and do something a little different with their ethos and force Wildcard to approach their attacks in a different way.
Look, you'd think on paper that this is a pretty difficult site to plant with the way ROFLCOPTER set up. Here we go. Thank you, Sky. Fantastic vertical line there, exposed thanks to the impact. Just look at all of the damage done to those walls. Shotgun, the Kaken has been well, doing some good work. It's going to be so difficult to plant in service. In kitchen as well, to be honest, which is what Wildcard managed to pull off last time, that service plant. You think that with this setup, ROFLCOPTER won't fall for it a second time.
Definitely would think so. And you know, the flip side to having so much line of sight, like look at that, there's actually so much line of sight in towards the bomb site. It also means that for anchoring, you can't really sit on site. You can see one player there, one lone player is Kaken on the smoke. He has to try and hold down site directly, but outside of that, a lot of this defense is going to be won or lost off-site. Whether this roam can hold up, whether they can really stall out Wildcard's push and presence outside or on the outer areas of the map. That's really where this strat needs to live or die.
A bomb has been located.
Impact out.
Again, good line of sights from ROFLCOPTER, but it's really just going to be all about how they continue to stall Wildcard out on this push. Already a good job, 90 seconds in. Certainly a different story to last time. At this point, on the previous attempt in round 1, Wildcard were actually already in getting the plant down.
A bit slower for them, but that's okay. Slow and steady wins the race, and Wildcard have made some excellent map control. Thing is, OJ and Boydie are waiting to pounce. Now, they're not hard contesting VIP and Master as of yet. Now, those are the two areas where Wildcard could enable some vertical play and flush Kaken out of his position on the bomb site. It'd be very dangerous to do so. Look at Boydie. He's lurking. He's pushing forward. But surely the player on the other side of this doorway would hear him.
Gonna have to be careful.
Oh my God.
That's the air jab. He doesn't get pushed on. And I guess the Surya gate almost kind of helped him a little bit in that instance. Couldn't be swung. So he will live to fight another day. Into the final minute now, Wildcard. You see them now setting up around service. Looks like this is where the plant is going to be. It is Pat with diffuser outside the doorway. And a good double entry.
Oh, Milo, come on!
Oh, no.
What was that? Milo, what are you doing? Wildcard, what on earth are you doing? At the flip of a hat, it just falls to absolutely nothing. That was embarrassing.
Yeah. Wow. That really flipped so quickly. And what a flick from Milo. I mean, it was a good shot. But no, look, definitely not what you want. And it derailed everything. The absolute flurry from Wildcard after that. They just, they couldn't hold off ROFLCOPTER. A much better defense from ROFLCOPTER, I must say. You know, they had some really decent line of sights and positions that Wildcard just didn't look comfortable trying to push out. And you saw, once Wildcard finally felt the courage to try and force something in and around site, ROFLCOPTER were just ready to deal with it.
I tell you what, after that round, Boydie is absolutely fighting the urge to type NS in chat.
Defenders,
to
protect
Milo.
your bombs from being used by attackers.
Wouldn't expect any different from ROFLCOPTER.
They like having a bit of fun, don't they?
They do love it.
Very much known. I mean, it's in the name, isn't it? It's in the logo. It's in the Twitter account. Hashtag fly high, hashtag not too high. Very much can't take them seriously sometimes, but hey, they found one round, and on defense, that's not bad. That's almost half your job done, to be honest. 2 rounds and you're probably okay. 3 rounds, you're more than satisfied. 4 rounds and you're having a fantastic time. The Wildcard need to get that momentum back on their side. This time it is, of course, Sunrise taken for ROFLCOPTER. We haven't seen them here yet.
Definitely a good chance to see a new one. And Boydie, tell you what, the cheeky guy, he wants to go for this spawn pick. He wants to run out here on Aqua Balcony. He manages to land something here. It's certainly going to be a tilter for Wildcard. But oh, he's really questioning whether he wants to commit to this or not. You have to love it. And I think it's just something that you would come to expect from ROFLCOPTER in particular on Coastline. You know, they are not afraid of this kind of aggression, and they're not afraid to make some of these risky plays.
Yeah, the good old 2 hits onto the barricade and then shooting out enough of the wooden panels so that you can actually crouch through it. Very, very cheeky. OJ is hard contesting off us here, and you can see from the outlines of Wildcard that this is definitely going to be a heavy point of contest. 3 players hanging out over there. But Wedables takes down Milo. At least Milo won't, unfortunately, have the chance to team kill for this round.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be devastated about that. But there it is, the run out from Voidy. He's been hanging out in Aqua waiting for that. And Wildcard in a bit of disarray on this attack. They haven't been able to get in the building yet. Vincia on the roof, he's probably made the most progress out of anybody else on the team. Coastline can certainly be like that a little bit, but certainly not what you want to see 90 seconds in to a double bars attack. It's going to put them in that 3v5 situation and going to be quite challenging from this point, I'd say.
Yeah, Coastline is absolutely a map where a pick or two makes a huge difference. Not necessarily in the utility. It's not like utility means everything on Coastline compared to a map like Club where you got to do all this hard breach, but just in terms of the manpower, right? Like it changes the momentum of the round. ROFLCOPTER can sit back and relax a little bit. Wildcard really have to focus their efforts. And there you go, another pick. It's just gone from bad to worse for Wildcard. They started strong with 2 rounds, but now it looks like ROFLCOPTER's about to find 2 of their own.
Yeah, this has been a very big kind of turnaround moment for ROFLCOPTER, looking very strong on this round. Voidy been particularly sharp, not just this round, in some of the previous rounds as well. He's found himself already up to 5-2. You see this, Vincia and Imarin, it's all on them for the round for Wildcard. 30 seconds left here. Made themselves way in, but Diffuser's down. This is just going to be so tough to kind of close out.
Bomb located by attackers.
Imo's got such a good position, and he's a monster with the AK and the 2.5 times scope, so I wouldn't put it past him to land a couple of shots here. He's going to prone on inside. Vinny as well on the other end of it, but unfortunately he's now by himself. Caught in some crossfire, and ROFLCOPTER will quickly mop up what was a dominant round from the outset. Numbers advantage that only spiraled in their favor. Now we go into round 5, and ROFLCOPTER have already found essentially par for the course. Their 2 defense rounds. No doubt they'll be gunning for a third and hopefully a fourth to really shove Wildcard back in their place.
Yeah, this is definitely a good sign for ROFLCOPTER. Again, we kind of highlighted that for Wildcard. You know, they're going to be aiming for most likely the 4-2 half, being that it's an attack half. And ROFLCOPTER, they decided to be on defense, is statistically disadvantaged on Coastline. But here they are, toe-to-toe. It's 2-2. And they could really rustle some feathers. They managed to get a 3-3 half or even their own 4-2. It really is going to be a bit of a back foot moment for Wildcard.
Just looking at how dominant the rounds have been so far for each team, right? Our opening round was a 1v1 with the post plant that Vinny managed to clutch up. Round 2 for Wildcard was a fairly dominant round. Ended up as a 4 versus 0. And then we had 2 very, very dominant rounds for ROFLCOPTER. A flawless one, partially thanks to the unfortunate team kill. And then following that, it was the round we just saw, which was another dominant round, 4v0 at the end of it. So these rounds haven't been that close, funnily enough. Aside from that first one, it's been pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, and even that first one was the rush plant, right, from Wildcard. So, look, I think it's an interesting perspective. And looking back on it, I almost feel like I could comfortably say that it's like ROFLCOPTER have had more total control than Wildcard. It's just that Wildcard did get a couple of good round wins out of those first 2. So maybe ROFLCOPTER could be even further ahead here. Maybe danger signs for Wildcard on the horizon, if that's the case.
Well, considering this is Wildcard's map, of course, set up to be a spicy series. Historically, ROFLCOPTER does tend to get the better of Wildcard. I'm going to try and see if I can grab the full results. But in the most recent time these teams played, it was OCN in Stage 3, the regular season. ROFLCOPTER won 7-5. Oh, sorry, Wildcard won 7-5, believe it or not. I actually had that the wrong way around. That said, in Stage 2, it was ROFLCOPTER who absolutely had the advantage, 7-2. That was, in fact, on this map of Coastline.
First minute in now for Wildcard, and you can notice that they are being very thorough. And look, they are pretty well known for that. And in the past, they've been you know, under some heavy criticism, I guess, about some of the pace of their attacks, and it's fluctuated a little bit. But right here, they have certainly slowed down, and rightfully so, because ROFLCOPTER, as you kind of pointed out just before, Dev, it's almost 2 flawless rounds consecutively here that ROFLCOPTER have landed, and it's been off the back of some pretty nice defense plays. Wildcard certainly don't want to overstep, but they're going to have to start progressing somewhere, because ROFLCOPTER are just not giving them an inch right now.
Concussion.
Bomb located by attackers.
Yeah, it's a lot of just sitting and waiting, isn't it? Wildcard is sitting around rappelling on windows. I mean, they haven't taken an awful lot of map control. If you look at the master side VIP, like no breach on the external VIP wall. Still 2 roamers off master. Like in terms of map control, Wildcard, yeah, thank you, Sky. Our observer just doing God's work. And Wildcard have taken very little map control. Now, you don't need map control if you want to go for an aqua plant. You don't need much more than luggage and honestly, aqua. But it gets easier the more you have, and it also gets easier when you find a pick or two to assist. Milo finally gets back into the game. A welcome frag, and Pat's about to find one here. Don't tell me you missed that, mate. Kakin goes down, thank God. Bordy's got a strong position, though, in Sunrise, and Wettables also has a flank. Pat forcing that diffuser down on the ground, but Bordy's gone below, and the pre-open holes work out so well for him and for ROFLCOPTER. Hotshot gets trade out before he can finish off Pat down on the ground, and it's just Bordy left. He found the first one, but it's going to have to be a whole lot more than that from him. Wildcard end up stealing it away. Another seemingly dominant round.
Yeah, it's really swinging back and forth here, but at least for Wildcard, they've kind of answered those 2 consecutive near flawless rounds, or one was flawless for ROFLCOPTER. That one looked better once they got going. It was a bit of a slow start, but yeah, getting into the game, they looked great. Last chance here for Wildcard. If they take a 4-2 half, look, I think that would be a pretty big achievement for them, because as we kind of identified before, it feels like holistically ROFLCOPTER have really had more of a look in this half, and potentially could have recognized a lead, but not to be. And if Wildcard's still at 4-2 half, I think that would be quite the dub.
Quite the dub.
Need to locate and defuse as
Certainly.
many bombs as they can.
Wildcard, they've been practicing for a long time for this. ROFLCOPTER did actually qualify for
Located by attackers.
the OCN finals. The top 4 teams from OCN played that. Now, unfortunately, they didn't do very well there. They got dumpstered by Chiefs. Won 5 rounds across 2 maps. But hey, at least they made it there. Wildcard can't say the same. Well, I guess we had Vinny on the desk casting. That's the most Wildcard scene of a playoff in quite some time. Definitely not in how he would have liked. But what I'm getting at here is that Wildcard, they've been on break for a long time, right? November 28th was when they played their relegations and took down Overt and Big Dogs to retain their spot in OCN. ROFLCOPTER have not only had the experience more recently of playing the OCN finals, which was in December, but on top of that, they've also, of course, been playing all weekend against Kira and Sharper throughout the relegations for APAC South. So ROFLCOPTER, in a way, more warmed up, more VODs available. Wildcard's Rousty could certainly have been studying up. But Wildcard, I mean, we don't know what they've been working on in the meantime. It's been 2 whole months. Their map pool could look very different.
Definitely could, and there's definitely always an interesting discussion or argument about teams that are either more warm or have had more time to prep and, I guess, kind of hide things in a way. It's always hard to say which way that swung. I mean, we talked about it a little bit in the previous series. Last Dance are the ones that were warmer as they had to play the full bracket, and they absolutely smoked through their opponents of Order, who had all those months to prep. So look, could be history repeating itself here, but so far Wildcard, they are up to the challenge. Now once again, first minute has been fairly methodical from this team, just really carefully gathering info, not wanting to overextend. Now this was a near flawless round on last attempt from ROFLCOPTER, and they did a great job with their off-site presence.
Just a little prick.
People like to say that Siege is a mental game. A wise man once said 95% mental. So when you talk about form, ROFLCOPTER are feeling very, very positive. They've just come off 2 wins, trunching through the bracket. Wildcard, though, I mean, I've heard buzzes that Wildcard performed very well in scrim, so maybe they'll have some confidence. Weddable's really feeling the pressure now. Wildcard confidently pinching his position and indeed finishing him off. He's down on the ground and now dead. Cold on the floor. Boydie's on for a flank though, as well as Hotshot. My God, just look at them all. On for the flank here. Hotshot so close, but Emo's just better. OJ can finally find one for Wildcard. But with 4 players on the opposing side, Boydie and OJ have a lot of work to do.
Definitely do. And now Wildcard, they have made their way to site. Plant going down on behalf of Geo. So that means it's now going to be a post-plant retake for ROFLCOPTER. And it's all on OJ to try and make this one happen.
Not a lot of time. And it is ticking away. Also doesn't have a great scope to take those long fights. Wildcard looking very much warmed up and so close to taking this 4-2. OJ's like, do I rotate? No, I kind of need to win this fight, don't I? How many angles has he got to contest, though? Far too many, that's the answer. OJ goes down, and, well, that's one for Geo to add to his tally as Wildcard end up 4-2 on their attacking half.
Definitely a good scoreline for Wildcard coming out of their attacks, and it looked like it was at threat of ROFLCOPTER really running away with that half at one point, especially when we were at 2-2. ROFLCOPTER stacked some very strong rounds together, but really good signs from Wildcard there. They have adapted well to what ROFLCOPTER had started to put into their defenses, and to be able to come out with that 4-2 half is it's really great. So now coming onto the defense, still at Wildcopter. Wow. I guess that's one way to blend the names.
ROFLCOPTER?
ROFLCOPTER, yes. What I was going to say is I guess we'll wait and see what tests Wildcard on these defenses. Because as we know, ROFLCOPTER can be a fairly aggressive attacking team at times.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, we've seen so far some very dominant rounds. Both ways though, funnily enough. The most dominant round was a flawless one from ROFLCOPTER. But we've had, in terms of the number of players on the winning team who have survived each round, the first round it was 1 because it was a 1v1. And after that, it was 4 players or 5 players alive on the winning team every single round.
Jeez.
Very, very one-sided, but in both directions, funnily enough. Both Wildcard have had dominant rounds, ROFLCOPTER as well. I will say, I posted this on Twitter, but I saw a newspaper clipping from a couple of days ago that said, Wildcard's stunning win. And I believe they were talking about the tennis, but, you know, I definitely felt like that was a bit of an omen for what we might see. Certainly could be if Vinny is hot on his shot like that.
Yeah, geez, that was a good one onto OJ on the rappel. First 30 seconds to find that opening kill is certainly going to be helping Wildcard on these defenses. And already that's going to have ROFLCOPTER reconfiguring how they do this push. Now OJ, at least on the Finker, probably not going to be a massive impact lost. Certainly not helpful for sure, but could be worse operators to have lost at this point. Now they have identified a player here in Kitchen that it seems like they really want to get this pinch on. They want to try and get this trade back. And might see Weddables enter from the service side to do so.
Look, not the easiest position to flush out, and Geo, he's been a bit hot and cold this year, but at his peak, he is a monstrous fragger. He actually falls back. A smart move, as ROFLCOPTER not only have horizontal pressure from outside service and the kitchen window, but also here in VIP, you can see all of that vertical game. Boydie is set up. Great start for ROFL. They've got some really good map control here, but what are they going to do with it? That's the real question.
It's a fantastic question. Now, I love that little use of the Syria gate there. The indented BPC is protected. They'll have to burn utility just to be able to get rid of that BPC. So do love that from Wildcard. And this is starting to be a bit of a crunch point here for ROFLCOPTER. Look, at least they're in and they've got a little bit of map control. But Wildcard, again, being very patient. They've got the man advantage here. So it's just about ROFLCOPTER trying to figure out where their opening is.
I'm pretty sure that BPC, it must be instrumental to Wildcard's hold because they not only had the Aruni Syria gate, but also they had at least 2 magnets, both of which got wasted but fortunately for Wildcard, actually destroyed the two charges from Boydie. Oh no, that's an embarrassing one. Hot shot goes down to the Capcan EDD. Oh no, what an embarrassing spot for it as well. You love to see that.
Do love to see that, and that is the impact of Capcan when you're least expecting it, especially at a pro level. You kind of forget to look at those doorways, but 20 seconds in, 3v5, this is going to be a tough execute for ROFLCOPTER.
Let's see what Wedables can do. The rookie only started playing Comp Siege about a year ago. Now he's going to have to find a whole lot of headshots. Can't even get Vinny. Kaken, the other newbie on the roster, he tries to follow, but it's going to be a tall order. Time ticks away and ROFLCOPTER fall once again, this time in their opening attack. Wildcard are actually looking fantastic. That's 5-2 on the scoreboard for them.
Yeah, they are starting to roll ahead a little bit here. That's 3 rounds in a row. Of course, we only just had the half change around, but regardless, that is a little bit of momentum here. So ROFLCOPTER, they are going to want to have to slow down some of this momentum. 5-2, it's a dangerous scoreline. I think I say it quite a lot on broadcast. I always get nervous when you see a 5 hit the scoreboard because it's 1 round away from match point, which means you then have to force OT, and of course if you don't, well, you're going to lose the map. So pressure really starts to kick in at this point for ROFLCOPTER.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Didn't look great at the start for Wildcard, I'll admit. Like, the first round was pretty sketch, second round was good, but then 2 rounds in a row for ROFLCOPTER, especially with that team kill, right? Like, why is it? It's something about Wildcard. They always seem to be that team that has those team kills. I don't know what it is. It always feels like when you're watching Wildcard, it must be a high pressure environment, right? I think a team that has been at such a high level as they have, you know, competing on the world stage. Admittedly, I think Emo's the only remaining player on the roster who actually did that. But, you know, most of this team was still Wildcard, with the exception of Milo, a year ago when they were, you know, the best team in OS. And going from that to, you know, really, really struggling to even retain their spot in either their nationals or their regional league, that I think just makes the entire environment on the team a bit more stressful and intense.
Yeah, I think going more into that, a little bit of quick insight that we got, you know, Vincia was the one that replaced Ethan, I believe, back on Wildcard when their roster started to change around a little bit. And he said that, you know, it was really rough in the beginning when things were struggling for them because it's almost like they had to learn to lose as a team because they were so used to just winning at that point. And I think that sums up a lot of their 2021 because, quite frankly, there really wasn't a lot of wins in that year. So some teams do need to go through that kind of phase. They need to learn to lose before they can start to fix what's actually going wrong.
And from what I've heard, they perform really well in a lot of their scrims against a lot of Asian teams and Oceanic teams. So that would hopefully give them some confidence booster. But people always say scrim performance is not the same as actual game performance. Even the settings that people use in scrims are slightly different. Most teams these days will actually play like a 12-round format, but it's not necessarily 1st to 7. So in theory, you could have like 12-0, you could have a 9-3 scoreline. And obviously people are scrimming to improve and scrimming to learn rather than scrimming to win. So often the terminology is thrown around. But Wildcard, at least they're coming off a 2-month break where they've been focusing on having a bit of a holiday, I expect, but also really just getting back on that horse. And they seem to be have done a good job of that so far.
Yeah, definitely looking good. Very slow procedural attack here from ROFLCOPTER though. Almost 2 minutes deep. They have gotten in and made a little bit of progress. Gotten some info here through lobby, but they haven't put a whole lot of pressure onto the site. You can see Pat running like a madman down on the site though as the vert has happened. And Milo's been downed by Boydie on the white stairs. And this has started to really turn for ROFLCOPTER.
Yeah, slow and steady, but they have a massive advantage. Emo's going to be able to get the res off, and Milo will be picked up. Boydie likely to drone that, get the info in just a minute. Some good map control still for Wildcard, mostly horizontally. They've still retained almost the entire of the first floor, while ROFLCOPTER have that vertical game above the bomb site. Oh, the drop.
There's the hatch drop. That was good from Boydie. Oh, Sharp almost hits the second into office.
Defender
Wildcard still on the back foot. Vinny on the run out doesn't net anything. So 20 seconds. Wildcard, they've got a steaming ROFLCOPTER to try and stop from this execute.
Oh man, this is gonna be hella messy now. ROFLCOPTER has the man advantage, and for that they can spiral a 5v3, and in a matter of seconds it becomes a 5v0. Fantastic work from ROFLCOPTER. Wettables with the 2k at the end of it. They're back in this, a fantastic attack, and their second flawless round.
They have had a lot of strong rounds. In fact, every round they've won, I'm just going to call it flawless, because the one that was a 4-0 that ended, Vinny got a kill and it was traded almost instantly. It was basically flawless. So the rounds that ROFLCOPTER have won, they have won in a breeze. But outside of that, it has been quite the tussle. A bit of a strange map that we've witnessed so far. But look, I like that from ROFLCOPTER. They just kind of took their time and they really ensured that they had a nice little stranglehold on that wildcard hold. I'm really struggling with their name. I don't know what it is. I've said it for years, but why is today bad?
For me, it's ROFLCOPTER. Sometimes I get a bit of a lisp, and my R's come out as W's. I go WAFLCOPTER.
WAFLCOPTER. That just sounds like you're trying to be cute, though. I like that.
Maybe I'll with a WAFLCOPTER with a wild card. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, though? Like, you mentioned how slow these attacks have been. Oh, that's the story of these teams, right? Both Wildcard and WAFLCOPTER tend to be some of the few teams within APAC that actually do favor a much more methodical and slow play style. They like going through the checklist. And when you've been watching teams like, particularly, your Last Dance, I mean, they were so fast, weren't they? One of the fastest teams we've seen in a while. Particularly a lot of your Southeast Asian teams, your Korean and Japanese teams, they love moving fast. They love a bit of aggression on their attacking side. They love sometimes forfeiting structure in favor of surprise, the element of surprise. That is not what you're going to see today with Wildcard on ROFLCOPTER, at least not on their attacking side. It's definitely going to be this long game, droning out, trying to take map control, working together.
Certainly is the case, and interesting juxtaposition compared to the Order Last Dance series that we just watched. But here we are. Looks like a heavy focus on trying to clear out the office position. It's going to be Vincia on the Ella holding this, and I'm going to guess he's got the FO12 as well, seeing as he's got pistol out right now. Expecting potentially a long contest. Either way, seems like it's a critical part of ROFLCOPTER's attack is clearing this out.
Oh! Can't take the long angle, no, Vinny. He's got to wait and let them come to him, but now he's low HP, and that makes it so risky. At least Wildcard have found the opening pick. Geo took a lot of damage, but did take down Boydie. One of the big hitters from ROFLCOPTER, the top fragger in the server right now, believe it or not. He's going to have to sit out the rest of this round.
That certainly will have an impact, and it has created an additional kind of stall here for ROFLCOPTER. The pressure has not really come to Vincia since then. Now we're starting to see some utility come through. It is flashbangs. He tries to contest. Is the crossfire here for Wildcard, and he wreaks havoc onto ROFLCOPTER. 5 versus 2. They have fallen apart.
And the adrenal surge from Finka will not save ROFLCOPTER. Wettables and Kakin, the two newest members of the roster, they've done a good job of making this 2v5 a 2v3. And with them left, that's not too shabby, is it? That said, Milo's now taken down. Poor Kakin. Emo finishes off the round, and Wildcard, well, it feels like we just started this match, but match point has now been found.
Yeah, it did just kind of suddenly appear for us, and what a round from Wildcard. Again, they did a really good job with their defenses of not overextending. They didn't give ROFLCOPTER an early pick. If something had kind of fallen out of place, fallen out of shape in that first minute or so, you just know ROFLCOPTER would have had more map control, more of that stranglehold on Wildcard. It really would have changed things. Vinny in particular, he did a great job holding down Office. But at the same time, he didn't do it alone. His teammates did a fantastic job at covering. We saw the opening pick come kind of elsewhere, and it just really never went anywhere from ROFLCOPTER at that point.
And defuse as many bombs as they can.
Well, ROFLCOPTER certainly need to step it up now. This is the advantage Wildcard have come into the second half after going 4-2 on their attack is that all they've had to do is win 2 defenses, and now they've got match point. ROFLCOPTER need to string together 3 attack rounds in a row, and that'll just be pushing overtime. A lot of work to be done, and Wildcard can fortunately go back to a bomb site now unlocked that they have previously won. It's Hookah Billiards. And look, this was fairly dominant as well. They had 3 players up left at the end of it. There was that amazing Capcan trap EDD kill at the start of the round. OJ caught very much unawares. The Capcan switched out now, and I think that's good for Wildcard. Just keep ROFLCOPTER guessing.
Yeah, look, I really like that. And it always works out really well when it goes in that order. You know, you play a Capcan, you do get a cheeky little kill out of it. You know ROFLCOPTER's going to be checking those doorways no matter what. 6-pick is definitely a thing you have to consider. And even if you don't have it, if you show it, 6-pick off it, whatever, you know, it's going to keep your opponents guessing. So I do like that. And look, it seems like it's a fairly similar setup here from Wildcard, and I like that they haven't changed a whole lot about it. As you were saying, it was a fairly strong and successful defense last time around.
Yeah, there's a lot of info denial here for Wildcard, however. No reinforcements on the external VIP, though, makes it very easy for ROFLCOPTER to open that up early in the round. As Boydie starts to consider moving in, taking that control, no contest for the east side map control of Master or VIP for Wildcard. However, there are roamers below, and if Wildcard have some information, potentially we can see a C4 from Geo, who's currently hiding downstairs.
So something we'll pay close attention to and keep an eye on. And now, this is something that ROFLCOPTER have a much better heads up on, is this beautiful little bulletproof camera setup that we've seen from Wildcard. That certainly will wreak havoc further into this round if ROFLCOPTER don't deal with this. They are going to have to expend quite a bit of utility as well. And here it goes. They have burned those magnets.
Oh, no,
They've just whiffed the grenade, though. Wedables at least has found a double that's going to help regardless.
Would love to know where that was. Was he just sitting on the kitchen window and 2 people walked past? Oh, poor Vinny's caught out of position as well. Fortunately managed to get away with his life for now. Player on the Aqua balcony. He would love to win that fight. It would be huge for Wildcard. Who are on match point. That's a nice shot, though. Boydie gets sent packing, deleted from the server. 3v4 now for Wildcard.
So certainly winnable for Wildcard at this point. And Vincier, he's just on a tear. He's going to go for the flank around through 90 towards luggage and try and put that pressure onto the attack. Pat still C4 in hand. Wildcard, while they might be at a man disadvantage, they are still fairly well set up to try and deny this. If they don't lose another person before this execute is attempted,
oh no,
they're going to be on top, and now they are. What a huge double play from Pat.
Pat finally traded back now. 2v2 with 20 seconds left. Wedables and Kakin once again, the last 2 standing. Milo and Vincier hold their position. They don't overextend. And ROFLCOPTER forced to try and get this plant down. Wedables has to cover, but Finny's coming from behind. Milo takes down the planter. Wedables left on his lonesome. And Wildcard will easily take that first map. A dominant 7-3 victory on Coastline.
Dominant indeed. I mean, look, it felt like ROFLCOPTER, they were in it in that first half, but once we rotated sides, it was it's kind of over at that point. I mean, ROFLCOPTER did have one good round. It was flawless. It was round 8. That's pretty much it. Wildcard just did such a great job at adapting to the way that ROFLCOPTER were trying to attack, and that is a nice statement on Wildcard's map pick.
It absolutely is. Wildcard coming in looking hot after what has